got Dizwiz, who asks, or I guess this is a quote, give me proof of what he worked on specifically.
Oh, I get
I don't
this a
get the
lot.
quote.
Oh,
Not
I
yet.
get this a lot. They've been trying
I
to erase
assumed
me.
you'd know.
They've defaced my Wikipedia page numerous times. Every time I come out with a controversial tweet, a bunch of people run to Wikipedia and erase things like, "Oh, he was the team lead of World of Warcraft." No, he was a middle manager. Well, if you look at the credits, my name is right below the CEO, and in fact, that game wouldn't have existed without me. Basically, I saved the project from cancellation. I helped build the team. And that was a very difficult project for all of us, and for me particularly. I was running around with 2 Blackberries trying to get everything done. So that comment refers to the people trying to discredit and erase what I've done in the past. And if you don't believe me, there's an entire book on it called The WoW Diaries by John Stotts. It's free on Kindle Unlimited, and you can buy the coffee table version, which has beautiful artwork in it, on Amazon. And it's written by my friend John Stotts, who was one of my best level designers for WoW. He did Booty Bay and about half the dungeons in classic WoW. So you can literally just look at the book. So there you go. There's your proof. Go look at the free book, which nobody does.
Yeah, WoW was a very important successor to Ultima, which fizzled out. But Ultima was sort of the very first working idea of an MMO, and then World of Warcraft really nailed it.
Well, we were playing Ultima online and EverQuest extensively.
Yeah, we were, and the studio was completely Ultima Online.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we decided to do World of Warcraft. We didn't know it would be a success. There was a lot of doubt on the project. It was a very expensive project, and it was almost canceled. And so it took a lot of group effort to get that project through Blizzard, and it became the most derided internal project at Blizzard to the most, to the company changing event it was.
Amazing.
Wow. How many? I just real quick. How many people worked on Vanilla WoW?
60. We did it with 60 people.
See,
that doesn't count the entire departments that I had to help build. Like, we had to build out an entire live support team. We had to change. I developed a lot of real-time QA stuff and new methodologies for how to test a game as big as WoW. We had to change the sales force, which was motivated by box sales, and we had to train them on how to market a live market game. And so that was, if you include everybody else, it's much larger. But if you're talking about the core game, 60 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And even then, I would get flack. Why are you hiring so many? I was like, it's a big game.
Have they seen any of the other AAA games and what kind of teams they have?
Well, back then, 60 was on the upper echelon.
Yeah, that would be big.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Team sizes didn't explode until Gears of War came out. When Gears of War came out, it was the first title with so-called next generation graphics, where you had very detailed characters, very detailed environments, and you had an engine that could do it. And at that point, that made the art workload 5 times as much. And there was a huge hiring binge to try to staff up teams in order to compete. And so AAA teams today, it's mostly just art. That's the largest component of it. And it's spread out amongst multiple studios now.
So it was the game engine advancement that required all those bodies then?
Absolutely. That absolutely transformed the industry. Everybody had to up their visual quality, but the amount of work required to create these highly detailed models was 4 or 5 times what it used to take.
Yeah, and a game engine is never done. That's a horrible business to be in.
Well, we used to write our own engines. That was prevalent.
Yeah, we wrote our own too.
Yeah. But now everyone's running off Unity or Unreal or just a handful of products out there.
Yeah, it's mostly those two.
Or Ice, whatever that stupid thing, Andromeda, or EA, not EA. Who is it?
The Frost engine.
Frost engine, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a poor choice for Mass Effect.
Yep.
Yeah,
the wrong engine can really hamstring your game.
But the studio says, I've made the investment in this, So you're going to use it. It's not too dissimilar when a company was sniffing around us to buy us. And so the people with the money, OPM, other people's money, suddenly they pulled together a marketing team, all sorts of people, but these were all companies that they also bought out. So that's the dirty secret of when you're dealing with someone who is wanting to purchase you, you suddenly are buying very high priced talent or services from businesses that the VC already has in their pocket. It's all just a ton of bullshit.
Yeah, true across the entirety of the tech industry. But sorry, Grummz, you were saying.
I lost track. What were we talking about?
I do
Let's
that
get
to
back
people.
into
Engines and team sizes.
Right.
So that's what really drove these bloated AAA teams, and it just got worse because what happens when a studio gets past a certain size is you get studio politics. So unfortunately, this happened at Blizzard, and I saw it firsthand. And this happened at many other studios. The reason AAA is bloated now is partially because of office politics. You get people in there that are now leads of departments, lead of art department, lead of networking, lead of this. And unfortunately, it got a little political and people wanted more influence. And how do you get more influence in a large corporation? Well, you have a larger budget and a larger team. So there was an incentive to hire on and sort of create these sort of warring fiefdoms of departments for control within AAA game companies. And it got really, really corporate, really, really Dilbert. And DEI was actually weaponized, and the Me Too movement was actually weaponized as a way to sort of, wage war within these studios. They would go through Slack messages, they would go through other leads, and I have people telling me this all the time. They go through other leads social media accounts looking for anything to cancel the other one with. And that was because it was a very potent weapon about 5 years ago, and unfortunately it left a trail of bodies. So you had a lot of talent leave as well in the industry. But these big teams, they're so big now, they don't need to be that big. In fact, there's huge inefficiencies. Productivity has slowed to a crawl because of these team sizes being so large. And anyone who's read classic software development, the Mythical Man Month, knows that throwing more bodies at a certain point is not only a diminishing return, it'll actually go negative. It'll actually start to hamper your project. That needs to change in the gaming industry. You don't need these large teams. That's largely BS, especially now that tools have gotten so good. 3D modeling packages, sound packages, tech packages. We have all this stuff where we can make games for less. And that's why AA games, budgets that are not $100 million, but like Helldivers, but like Palworld that are 20 million and below, that's why they're knocking it out of the park. They're reaping the benefits of smaller team sizes, the higher productivity, the cohesive vision, and they're leveraging all the tools to basically be able to compete much, much closer to the AAA level, far above the old indie level. And that's what has me most excited.
So is it an HR issue? Is it a natural function of just bringing people in who don't believe in being part of a team? Is it there's not a single leader that grabs everyone together and says, hey, we're a team, let's behave like one?
Chato, you have a background in network television, right? As well as games. Do you recall a time? I don't know if you do, if this is too long ago, but I recall a time in games where we didn't do it for the money. We were creating an industry, and there was a passion to create an industry or to grow an industry that was taking off for the first time, and we were driven by passion, basically. And what happened later on was, especially as we needed bodies because we had to expand these team sizes so quickly and the market was growing so quickly, that we lowered the bar. You didn't have to really like or play games anymore. You just needed to have a specific skill plus the specialization required. Put the emphasis on if you have the skill, that's more important than if you actually care about games. And that I think was part of the reason for AAA's current issues. But I don't know, did you see any of that in television?
Well, so television, again, there's multiple layers. When you've got a quality producer, writer, from Mary Tyler Moore or something like that, you would always get the network notes. You would always get the stupid comments. But they were well enough organized and had a big enough reputation that they were kind of left alone to their own devices. It's, the lower level shows of, from people who were not that well known, they would be influenced more by network notes. But so the hierarchy of, the networks, you always had people who were more interested in getting the right seat at Spago. That was always their goal, but they were really happy when they could take credit for the work of a creative team that they didn't have to pester too much. But they pestered often for the sole reason what we called at the time was flexing. So they would say something for the purpose of flexing, and then the production company goes, okay, we did it, and then they don't do it, but then the person doesn't care. But what's happened now, I don't know, I'm just guessing now, is that we've got people in positions of decision making who don't have talent, who are having way more influence on less talented production organizations.
But I've
That's
heard
what
you
we're
talk
seeing.
about on your videos how there was people had fun with it. People were trying to create shows to compete with each other, to come out with new
Yes.
ideas, and now it just seems like they're just getting a budget and spending it and checking a bunch of boxes.
Yeah, I would say so. But again, that goes back to the fact that they respected the team that they hired. Like you had MTM, or you had, the guy who wrote all the A teams. I mean, you had some very powerful people who made billions of dollars for the network that they kind of sort of trusted. Now they've got the two guys who, did Game of Thrones, who have been proven to be somewhat worthless. And they did the 3-body problem now, and I've heard varying.
I've heard mixed things. Some people really like it,
Really
others
love
not
it.
so
So
much. So
I really like the show. I
that
really
might not
like
be the right example.
I love the novels. It's different from the novels, but I think they did some things right in adapting it, being more character focused. But there's also some things that are a little painful to watch.
But
So,
I'll tell you, the worst part of developing a show is developing part, because everybody was second guessing everybody else. It's when the show is going and successful, everybody relaxes and it becomes fun. It's really not fun at the very beginning, because everyone wants to stick their finger in it. Hopefully that answers your question.
that
Well, I
launch
think
is the
is
same
the
in
worst.
gaming now as well, especially now when you have all of these mandatory consultancy companies that really go and stick their things into everything.
well, as soon as the money started happening in games, you started to get people, both the suits as well as developers who were in the industry to apply the glitter of game development to themselves. This happened at GDC, the Game Developers Conference. You could really see it there. While there are plenty of great presenters and serious devs presenting topics, there were a lot of Klingons. There are a lot of people that were, as in clinging on. There are a lot of people that were there just because of the glitz and glamour of being a game developer, and that just turned my stomach, really, because they had no real talent, they had no real motivation. They just wanted to be around the money and the celebrity of gaming, and this has turned off more than one creator that I know, and it's. I guess it's just the fact of any industry that starts to get big and make a lot of money.
When around what time was that? Because we were there in the mid 90s, and I didn't get any of that at GDC. It was pretty hardcore.
I think it was yeah. So early GDC was hardcore. And do you remember the suite crawl? Where you go through all the developers' hotel rooms and the bathtubs are filled with beer.
Yep.
And you just talk games, and
that's where we pitched EA. I mean, we had just a great time. And Microsoft bought out the Park of the Americas or whatever for their launch of DX1.
Yeah, that was a great time. But I started to sour on GDC probably in the early 2000s.
Okay, that makes
and
sense.
I first started noticing this, and then if you look at the way it is now, it's both better and worse. You get a lot more of these fluff low information panels. I call it low signal to noise ratio, but you also have a lot of really insightful talks on game design and technology. It's a mixed bag, but I think the devs, it's so expensive to go now. I heard it's over $2,000, I guess, to get a ticket there now. And so many of these, and unfortunately, I think it's a lot of the indie crowd, right? And I don't mean the indie games that are good. I mean the shovelware out there and the people making, games like Validate that are just there for all the wrong reasons, and they just want to be around games, and they were never hardcore geeks to begin with, and they're just there because it's popular, and that really was sad.
The big thing at the time were the mercenary programmers, the ones that would go from one game to another and get paid more and more. The guy who could make a game engine, the guy who could, like, there was always one or two people who were at the top of the game, and they were, went to the highest bidder. There was no loyalty.
Well, Blizzard guys were always extremely loyal. We had this wonderful. It was a great studio atmosphere, at the time. It was like we were all creators pulling together. We'd stay up late playing Magic the Gathering after work. We wouldn't go home. I remember one time on StarCraft, I didn't go home for weeks, and then when I finally arrived home, there was no power because the bill had arrived and I hadn't paid it. I hadn't been there, and it was just a different experience. And now it's 9-to-5ers for the most part, and unfortunately, not everybody is a gamer, and the passion isn't there anymore, and it's a different feeling. It's something that I wish we could go back to, but I don't think we can. I think AAA will always be the way it is, and that's why the AA industry gives me great hope.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9 AM Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.